To really get a handle on where we're headed digitally, we actually have to rewind. Way back to a time when our connections weren't just data points, but something you could actually see. Just think about it for a second. In a small village, right, the whole system was, well, it was alive. You could see it. You knew the blacksmith's work because you saw the plows in the fields. You knew the midwife's value because you saw healthy babies. You saw what people created because you were living right there with it. And that visibility, that deep understanding of how everyone depended on everyone else, it was all possible for one simple reason. Everything was on a small scale. So the big question is, what happened when we blew that scale up? I mean, look, we gained so much, right? We got planetary scale, insane efficiency, the power to connect with billions of people instantly. But in that massive leap forward, we lost something really fundamental. We lost sight of the very connections that hold it all together. And that's really the core problem we're digging into here. It's this wild paradox. The very systems we built to bring us all closer have, in a way, ended up fragmenting us, tearing our identities into little pieces and hiding the crucial relationships that actually make everything tick. So let's look at a few real-world examples of how this blindness actually plays out. Okay, so picture this. You've got an executive, right? And they're about to make a huge decision. The system, their dashboard, it's feeding them all this data. Market cap, quarterly earnings, all the usual stuff. But what about the local watershed that their brand new data center is going to rely on? What about the trust of the community they're building in? Poof, it's completely invisible. It doesn't even show up on the balance sheet. And this blindness, it's not just at the top. It hits the creators, the builders themselves. You've got an engineer. What does the system see? It sees their output, commits, velocity, but it can't see the exhaustion after pulling an all-nighter. It has no idea about the critical context that got left out of the ticket. And it definitely can't quantify that gut feeling, that human judgment that tells you when a project is really ready to ship.
And maybe the most profound cost of all is the human one. When a worker loses their job, what does the system see? A number, an unemployment statistic, that's it. It doesn't see a parent who's now scrambling to pay tuition. It doesn't see the neighbor who is always there to help with repairs, or the volunteer who's the backbone of a local charity but now has to step back. All of that, gone, invisible.
So why does this happen? Well, it's because each and every one of us lives in what you could call infinite ledgers. You exist as a bunch of separate data points spread across countless systems. You're a patient in this system, a customer in that one, an investor over here, a voter somewhere else. And the thing is, none of these systems talk to each other. Not really. So none of them ever see the whole you. And that fragmentation, that's the real root of the problem. Okay, but what if we could flip this whole thing on its head? What if we could design a new kind of digital architecture, one that wasn't built to slice us up into data points, but was actually designed to reveal our connections? And this is where we get to the idea of a protocol. Now, this is totally different from the tech we usually talk about. This isn't another platform. It's not a new app. A constitutional protocol is more like, well, it's like a constitution. It's a set of deep, foundational, shared rules for how we interact and collaborate online. And its whole purpose is to make our interdependence visible, right from the get-go by design. And you might be thinking, hang on, isn't that what the web was for? And, well, not quite. See, the original web gave us a protocol for information. It was brilliant at letting us share pages and documents, but it was missing the rules for true collaboration. It didn't have that constitutional layer. And that created this huge vacuum that, you guessed it, the big platforms rushed in to fill. And in the process, they started extracting value and, made us invisible all over again. Okay, so how does a system like this actually work? How does it pull back the curtain and make all those invisible connections finally visible? Well, at its core, a constitutional protocol has these built-in guardrails. Let's take one example. ZeroHive is basically got 4 key parts. There's a group, the PCC, that acts as a steward for the whole architecture. Then you've got a social helix, which is there to verify that contributions are real and valuable. You have resource entities, or REs, that form around specific things, like a project or a piece of land. And finally, you have PCEs, which give a voice to every single contributor. And this is cool, even non-human ones, like an entire ecosystem. So what's the result of all this? Well, all of a sudden, those invisible things, they pop into view. That executive, they can now see the watershed their data center is going to impact. That engineer's judgment, it can be valued right alongside their code. That worker, all their contributions as a parent, as a volunteer, they suddenly become visible.
And for the very first time, something like an ecosystem can have a real, verified voice in the decisions that affect it. It's a total game changer.
I know this can sound a little abstract, a little out there, but the real-world stakes here are astronomical. We're talking about a massive blind spot in the way our economy works right now, and you can actually put a number on it, a very, very big number. $110 billion. Let that sink in. That was a recent investment figure tied to OpenAI. I mean, that number, it's the absolute pinnacle of our current way of building and investing in tech. But the question is, what is all that money blind to? Look, that money builds incredible stuff, no doubt. Data centers, powerful AI models, just immense compute power. But every single bit of it depends entirely on these invisible foundations. The local watershed, providing the water, the health of the community, providing the people, the power grid, the workforce, and maybe most importantly, the trust that holds that entire fragile system together. And just to be super clear, this isn't a knock on any one company. It's a systemic risk. It's a feature of our current world. That fragmentation we talked about earlier, those infinite ledgers that chop up our identities, that's what creates this massive billion-dollar blind spot. And it means every major investment, whether it's by a utility company or a tech giant, is carrying this hidden risk on its books. Why? Because our systems are literally designed to be blind. So where do we go from here? What's the path forward? Well, the interesting thing is, it's not about inventing some flashy new piece of tech. It's about remembering something. Remembering a fundamentally different way of seeing the world and of relating to each other.
And this requires a huge mental shift. It means we have to move away from the old model of a company builds a product and that company owns and controls it. We have to move towards the idea of stewarding a commons, a shared space with shared constitutional rules that everyone agrees to play by.
And this really reframes the whole conversation we're having right now. The big question isn't, will AI replace jobs? The real question is, are we going to choose to adopt a new kind of architecture, one that finally lets us see and value and actually support the living systems, both human and ecological, that we all completely depend on? Because when we do that, we're not just building another platform, we're not just making another app. We're doing something much, much deeper. That's not building, that's remembering. Remembering how to really see each other again. Remembering how to see the systems that keep us alive. It's remembering how to connect at scale, together.